Two big names are entering the WWE Hall of Fame. One of them is well-deserved. The other one, I think, is well-deserved, but has also earned a lot of flack online. We'll get into it. New Japan Pro Wrestling is launching the road to Sakura Genesis, and, of course, all of the latest speculation on WrestleMania, the return of 25,000 people to live wrestling. It's a bonus edition of the WrestleZone wrap-up. How you doing? Yeah, it's good to hear a little bit of the theme song. I wish I could play more of it, but with these algorithms, I gotta get right through it. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. People don't have time to listen to music anymore. I know. I'm a musician.
How we doing, everybody? I'm Kevin Kellam. A bonus edition of WrestleZone wrap-up. This one has been overdue. The last time we were supposed to do this, I had a snafu and I couldn't do it, and I'm still feeling guilty about it. My Catholic shame boiling in my blood. All right. And Mr. Ross Berman is here with me. He's not even in the room, but I'm still going to sanitize. Just so I have it. Just so I have it. And I'm so happy to have you back on the show. He is the resident WrestleZone coverage expert, lead chief correspondent on everything New Japan Pro Wrestling. And also, as you can tell, he's already chugging Red Bull. He breathes Red Bull. You breathe Red Bull, baby, because you were watching New Japan shows live as they happen in Japan. You did the entire New Japan Cup. It ended just a little while ago, and we have from New Japan Cup, the big tournament launches into the Sakura Genesis stage here. They're off for a couple weeks, and then they're launching again here. We'll be covering that in this show. I know, Ross, you have a lot of takes about it. Some people had some really serious issues with maybe who won this thing, and we'll get into that. But Hall of Fame, that is the big news today. WWE's online show, The Bump, they've been doing something I'm very, very happy that they're doing. Because they're having people on The Bump, and you know if it's a legendary name who isn't in the Hall of Fame and they're on The Bump, their panel talk show, they're like their sports center, basically. You know if they're on the show, there's like a 50-50 chance in the last month that they're going in the Hall of Fame. So they had some names on today, and some of them I'm friendly with, and the other one was the mayor of Knoxville County, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. the Big Red Monster Kane, a.k.a. the brother of The Undertaker, a.k.a. the guy who connected a car battery to Shane McMahon's crotch. Yep. One of the biggest big men in the history of professional wrestling, certainly a multi-generational star, and certainly deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. He appeared in a segment with The Undertaker, zooming from his car, and The Undertaker, a longtime ally of him, a brother in the ring, not just by kayfabe blood, says, "I'm honored to tell you you're going in the Hall of Fame." I love these moments. I want this to be its own show. I want this to feel like its own show. The call to the hall. I want that. What do you think? Kane's going in the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about the other name in a second, though.
I need to get this out of the way first. Congratulations to Kane. I think it is a good moment. I will say, though, they've already done a few of these moments on The Bump, and I think the first one that they did with Molly Holly is like, it was perfect because it was perfect. It was the first one. It was a surprise. It felt organic. It felt like you said, like a moment. And now it's at the point where it's like a 50-50 shot that if a legend shows up on The Bump, they're gonna go into the Hall of Fame. And it's not as fun. It's not hitting me the way that Molly Holly one did. Because the Molly Holly was
idea there. I feel I really have an idea. It's like, do the documentary thing.
No, because if they're all the moment, then none of them are the moments. Like, no,
you just do hey, we're just filming a where are you now thing with you. You tell them they're doing something else, and then you tell them they're going in the Hall.
But that would be better than The Bump, because my problem is they just keep bringing this stuff out on The Bump, and so it's going to create this precedent where like they're gonna have a legend on The Bump simply because they needed to fill some time, and he's gonna be pissed off that he's not going in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna come back and bite them.
To some degree, I think Kane or any of these people that have these moments on The Bump, they know they're going in. This is just, you're going to get some information about the Hall of Fame today. Like they're going to tell you that you are going to get some like they all but tell them that, you know what I mean? And I've been a part of these scenarios where we're going to make a big announcement. I know what the big announcement is. And this is things at WrestleZone, things in my radio comedy career. You know what it is. And when we hand you the thing, say the thing. All right. Yeah. So you've been heard, you know what's going on. So it's all about making a moment that then gets people excited for it. So I get what they're going for.
But because it's WWE, it's kind of like Braun Strowman. All right, so Braun Strowman starts running around the ring and taking people out as he runs around the ring, and people go, "Man, that's great. That's a lot of fun."
He's like a train.
He's like a train.
Just like a train.
And so they start doing the Strowman Express T-shirts, and they're like, "Yeah, those T-shirts rule." Because you're right, he's kind of like a train. And then they add the sound effects because he's now an actual train, and it's the WWE thing of going, this Molly Holly thing worked. It was great. All right, now we're gonna keep bringing it in. We're gonna keep kind of making it less and less organic each time. I mean, this time it really did just feel like WWE's The Bump was like, all right, cool. We're gonna have Kane and the Undertaker because I don't know. Why do you think we're having Kane? And it starts to lose its kind of it starts to lose something genuine. It starts to lose that kind of emotion because now it's just theater. It's not this like with Molly Holly and Shane Helms. Maybe Molly Holly knew going into that interview you're going to get some news about the Hall of Fame, but it still felt like as they were filming it, one of the producers hit Shane Helms up on Zoom and was like, "Oh, by the way, she's going in the Hall of Fame. Tell her right now." You know what I mean? It felt spontaneous, and it just doesn't.
But Undertaker's not going to do that. He's going to be like, no. "What's the business? What am I doing?"
Exactly. No, exactly.
That's
what I'm saying. Is I'm not saying Kane doesn't deserve to go into the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying I don't feel great for Kane and the Undertaker getting to reunite. I'm just saying that it's a little hollow simply because of how much they've done it, and it could have been so much more. It could have been a moment on Raw. It could have been a moment on I don't know, some other like Raw Talk or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Some place where you don't expect it because we expect it from the Bump.
The strategy of it is to build talk on social media, and it's their social media driven show. And WWE has become, whether people like it or not, very, very successful as a social media driven company. That is the real reason they've had this success in the last 10 years that people say, "Oh, the ratings aren't this, the ratings." I was like, look at the social media numbers. It is incredible the amount of people that consume this and are engaged by it. So if you are consuming our content and you're engaged by it, I want to award you. I bought a whole stack of these. Have you seen these before? This is the Road to WrestleMania activity and trivia theme book. And if you're sharing this link, I'm giving these out before WrestleMania, and you can draw your own. You have to tell us what countries the superstars are from. Okay. You can also, look at this. They're going to blur out people, and you have to tell us who's blurred out, who's taking that Luthez press from the Undertaker. Tell me who that is. It's a fun thing. Perfect for a car ride if you're not driving. Or if, like me, you're a big man child, share the link to today's show. For the people on the podcast side of things, I want to include you as well. Thousands of people downloading the podcast. Did you know that we're in the top 10 on the Apple Sports podcast chart of the island nation of Anguilla? Anguilla, baby. Anguilla. All right? We beat out Stone Cold Steve Austin on 316 Day in a nation of nearly 16,000 people. Come on now. The numbers are there.
$5 says it's JBL.
just downloading over and over again.
Where's he at? He's in like Barbados. He's in Antigua. He's bouncing around that area.
I see many of the regulars with us. It's great. If you're new, I want to see you guys get on screen. We have plenty to cover coming up in the show. We'll also talk about WWE making some possible edits, or Peacock, their streaming partner with NBC Universal, doing that as the WWE archives are moving over there, the WWE Network moving over there. You have a list of things that possibly need that may have not aged well.
Look, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to assist the poor intern that is clearly sitting at either Peacock or the WWE Network that has to go through this with a fine-tooth comb
and say, is this okay? All right, let's get into the other big name announced for the Hall of Fame. Obviously, Kane, well-deserving. I mean, his speech is going to be entertaining. How the Hall of Fame this year is going to be presented is also interesting as well. Speaking of how the Hall of Fame is going to be presented, maybe we should just change the setting here. We should get a little bit formal. And we should go with this. Here we are. We're in 2019. Ooh. We're at the Hall of Fame. The ring is being opened up here. So Kane will go in. I assume The Undertaker is going to induct him, right?
I don't know, because here, let's talk first about who's going in before we start talking more about The Undertaker, because if I start talking about The Undertaker, I'm just going to spoil who the second person going into the Hall of Fame.
True. So the Hall of Fame class here is pretty good. Batista has pulled himself out. We discussed that on yesterday's episode. He has conflicts professionally that keep him overseas to not really do this, and he's just saying, I want to wait until fans are back, which is fine. Batista has the stroke. He can do that. They've added Molly Holly, who you mentioned already, Eric Bischoff, very deserving. So those are two very, you have in terms of replacements, that's not a bad replacement there. Now you add Kane to it. We had the previously announced names from last year's class of 2020 that included Batista. He's not a part of it, but part of that class will still go in this year. The Bella Twins, British Bulldog. We also, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one name that's not off the top of my head here. But let's talk about the current name that's going in that was announced today, also on the bump. Rajan Singh, former WWE writer, presented this news to another big man who maybe is big for different reasons and has been critical in many circles of wrestling fandom, but beloved in the country of India, the Great Khali. The Great Khali will be inducted in this year's WWE Hall of Fame. This one's a little bit of a surprise.
Well, and this is why I wanted to hold off on talking about The Undertaker, because two names that have been announced today, Kane and the Great Khali, are both guys who are talented wrestlers. I'm a fan of both of their work, but they would not be even sniffing the Hall of Fame if they didn't have some kind of relationship and some kind of feud with The Undertaker. Kane, obviously, his great, yes, Isaac Yankem happened. Yes, he was, I think, like the Unabomber or something in Smoky Mountain, but everyone knows him as Kane because he's The Undertaker's brother. Great Khali, when they debuted him against The Undertaker. He beat The Undertaker. That was his first feud. And so the fact that these two guys are going into the Hall of Fame before The Undertaker really kind of opens up that what is going on. It's a very, I know next year they're going to have WrestleMania in Dallas. So that's a possibility, but like what does WWE have to do to get the dead man in the Hall of Fame?
Well, here's what I say. I think there's something different you can do with the Hall of Fame. This year's Hall of Fame will be different just due to the pandemic circumstances. It is believed that, as far as we know, it will be taped on a closed set, a la the Thunderdome. Some of the inductions will be done virtually. We expect Khali not to travel from India for this. That this will be done remotely with him, possibly even Jushin Thunder Liger. He was one of the names I forgot to mention there. The NWO is expected to be there in some form or another. They will be inducted as a group. So this is still a very big event, a part of WrestleMania this year. I think they're going to try and make it the best they can. I have also been on this side. Maybe you're with me. I'm okay with the idea of no fans being physically present at this event. I'm okay with it for this reason. I think it should be an event that is formal, that is for the boys, if you will.
And if I'm not mistaken, we're on the 2019 Hall of Fame set right now. I'll hang a lampshade on the background. You've got us on video here. And what happened at the 2019 Hall of Fame?
Somebody ran and tackled Bret Hart, and that was a scene. That was one of the big scenes that weekend.
And when you add that to the history of fans booing at the Hall of Fame, of fans getting chants going at the Hall of Fame, like there is this the Hall of Fame crowd is kind of one of those, this is why we can't have nice things audience. And so I'm not against it, but I love that kind of live tension. I love the fact that WWE can't even control what is supposed to be the most respected night in their history. You know what I mean? Because it's like if Hollywood wasn't able to control or if the Motion Picture Academy wasn't able to control the people at the Oscars, or if the Hollywood Foreign and actually, to be fair, the Hollywood Foreign Press isn't able to control the Golden Globes because everyone's drunk and stoned but
now it'll be overly controlled. It'll be the other way. It'll be overly controlled because it's going to be taped. As far as we know, we don't know if it's going to be live. It may be taped over several days. So
it might give them chances to do some more cinematic flair to the Hall of Fame. I mean, you saw it
Sure.
with the Democratic National Convention where you had like performances. You see it with the way that various award shows have adapted to the COVID-19 restrictions. I mean, I want at least one person presented with a Hall of Fame ring by someone in a hazmat suit like they were doing at the Emmys last year. Like there's a lot of ways to have fun with this. It sounds like some members of the Thunderdome crowd have already recorded, genuine listening and polite applause like that. I've read some reports that they're already getting the crowd footage, and so we'll see. The Thunderdome's been this big ass experiment that I keep saying it's going to be real hard to get WWE to like actually go back to crowds they can't control. Yes, WrestleMania will have fans, the big ones will have fans, but like, man, they're on to like
something.
For a company that likes to condition their fans the way that WWE does, Thunderdome they really hit on something there.
But the thing is, as much as like hardcore fans think it's this weird thing, there's a lot of casual wrestling fans that love it, that really enjoy what it is and feeling like they're on camera. I think there'll be some version of it at WrestleMania, even though we'll have 25,000 people there. There will be some version of it there.
Oh yeah.
And there should be, if those are thousands of people that come to you and say, yeah, put me on camera in here, I'll sign the waiver and I'm on, give them something. Staying on the Hall of Fame. Great Khali's going to go in. Obviously that speech will be interesting. All right. Kane will give an interesting speech, but we obviously brought up, how are you putting these big men, Khali and Kane's brother, but not, Undertaker's brother, but not Undertaker himself. And obviously the Undertaker is Hall of Fame worthy, but Mr. Common commenter on the show, Mr. James Espanto Fernando Taguay, texting in a great question. Ross, Big Cup, don't you think The Undertaker deserves his own Hall of Fame event? I'm going to say yes. And if you're going to do it in Texas and you just want it to be about one guy, we're not inducting anyone else. We're doing one night about one guy, and here are several speeches, and here is that person, and you want to sell tickets to it, and it feels like a special event. Obviously, the Hall of Fame is special in its own way. This would be it. This would be a very unique way to present somebody with the Hall of Fame honors.
I'm not against it, but I also feel like if they were going to do that, they would have by now. I think the amount of Undertaker content that has been kind of put into the world over the past couple years has kind of been that to a degree. Am I wrong? I feel like every other week now, WWE will release some kind of thing where it's like, hey, these guys are going to talk about The Undertaker, and then we're going to show you some deleted scenes from The Undertaker The Last Ride or whatever. We're hitting peak Undertaker content. And so I don't know if a full-blown Hall of Fame event for The Undertaker is going to hit like it would, say, back in when they ran AT&T Stadium the first time for WrestleMania 32. It does feel like they've waited so long that no, just put him in like you put anyone else in. I mean, like, let's face it, if people unless they give The Rock his own special event, which I don't even think they're going to do, but like Stone Cold Steve Austin got put in like anyone else. Bret Hart got put in like anyone else. Hulk Hogan, who everyone has their feelings about, he got put in like everyone else. And so I don't get why The Undertaker should be so different, especially now when it's not like you're opening the door to his retirement where he gets to be himself. We've seen Mark Calloway. Mark Calloway has been making a podcast appearance after podcast appearance. You can make the argument that the Boneyard match was not The Undertaker but Mark Calloway, and so it does. I don't know. I would say put him in like anyone else. Find some other folks from Texas that you haven't put in yet, and make it the Hall of Fame like the Hall of Fame is supposed to be.
Okay, and I could see even him as a veteran saying, "No, I'll go in. I want to go in with other people, and I don't want it to be that way. Like put me in the other way you put in other people here." Yeah,
and don't get me wrong. Like I said, I can understand doing a big old Hall of Fame thing, but I don't see it the way it could have been like 5 years ago.
All right. So let's get into the controversial story here. We understand there are rumors about Rob Van Dam going into the Hall of Fame, but we haven't heard any big confirmation from his camp or another one, though it has been widely reported. We'll wait for the shoe to drop on the confirmation soon enough. But Let's talk about Peacock. Now, this is WWE's latest billion-dollar deal. One of the biggest deals so far in streaming, premium streaming for wrestling content. Obviously, WWE is the one that has the most in terms of the archive and everything like that. And WWE launched their partnership this past week, March 18th. The first event was Wwe Fastlane. Some people had some issues with it, adjusting to not having the pause button and all these different things. Things I think people will get over. The biggest issue I heard some hardcore fans say is, I don't really love Raw and SmackDown, but I love the WWE Network because it gives me access to all of these shows from the past. I'm not watching current wrestling. I'm watching classic wrestling. I'm a fan of a certain age. Okay. So I've heard this camp get very upset because you don't have the full archive from day one go on Peacock. You certainly have a lot of stuff on there. They have plenty of different things on there. I think more than enough to satiate a majority of fans and most people who get WWE Network, as it traditionally was in the United States. Everywhere else, it's fine. It's the same network it was. Is their issue is, well, why are you taking stuff away? Now we're hearing issues of reported edits to past WWE content for maybe some things that haven't aged particularly well. We've seen this with Disney Plus, where they've now restricted access to certain classic cartoon content, saying that there's cultural depictions that are not in line with current cultural norms or standards that are more acceptable by now. And at the time when those things aired, they were fine. It was fine by a general standard of humor or satire or storytelling, however you want to do it. Now, I'm not taking a side on the issue, but the edits that were done, that are reported that you can see, involve WrestleMania 6, which saw Roddy Piper in half body paint. All right. Some people would say even blackface, because half, right, as he took on Bad News Brown, an African-American wrestler, in a match. And some people said that should be a match that was taken off, DVDs and different stuff like that as well. And what was the other edit here? The
other edit is Survivor Series 2005, in which Vince McMahon says the N-word to John Cena backstage, and then it pans out, and Booker T and Sharmell are there. Is the please tell me he didn't just say that?
Yeah, and he says it with the A and everything like that, and everyone says it's the out. It's a controversial segment. I'm not going to challenge that, to say the least. So I understand it. And it's a weird thing. This is NBC. You're dealing with a different partner with different standards, and then some people can say, well, this is going to make me want the old WWE Network, and I'm going to get my VPN and go and do that, which is perfectly legal to do, by the way. Mm-hmm. And for you to have a VPN, internet access, which associates your IP address with a foreign country, so then you get access to it. That's fine. And it's completely legal. You're not breaking any laws, and you're still paying for above the board WWE. And then I've heard some people say, this is just because of ads and stuff like that. I don't think there's any problem with Peacock, because you can pay the same price, get all the stuff that they're offering on the WWE Network through Peacock, and then everything else that Peacock has for $10. They have a free tier. You don't get the big premium pay-per-views, but $5 you get it with ads. I think this is a better offering in terms of merging WWE with a general audience. And eventually the whole archive will be on there. I don't think it's a huge issue. Maybe for some people in some camps it is. But what do you think?
Well, no, but here's the thing. It won't be the whole archive, because the whole archive includes Vince McMahon saying the N-word. The whole archive includes Roddy Piper in blackface. The whole archive includes the stuff that they have cut out of Peacock. But Peacock is also the network where there are a couple episodes of 30 Rock you can't watch anymore because they were blackface. If you try and go back and watch the old episodes of SNL from the 80s and the 70s, when pretty much anything goes, those have been cut to ribbons, not only because of music licensing, but because some of that stuff was just not aged like milk. It's very much a thing that Peacock does. It's a thing that, hell, I've heard people cite that over on HBO Max, if you watch some certain Looney Tunes, there will be a disclaimer before it. Also, Gone with the Wind has a disclaimer before it. But also, HBO Max bought all of the South Park episodes, except for the Super Best Friends episode with the depiction of Muhammad, except for episodes 200 and 201, which have been pulled since they aired. And so this is not something new in streaming. And quite frankly, it's something that wrestling has kind of been dealing with for a long time. Let's face it, back in the WWE Network days, they would take Buck Zumhoff off when it was found out that he, you know, had some very serious allegations or some convictions even against him. You can't find any mention of Owen Hart or the Owen Hart's death in Over the Edge 99, except for the little stain of blood near the dent in the canvas, because they've made sure to sanitize some parts of wrestling history, even on the network. Exactly. No, and I'm arguing for it. It's the way the future is going to work. I'm glad someone at Peacock was able to drag this company kicking and screaming into the 21st century, because some of this stuff's just not going to fly. I got a whole list of stuff that if they're still going through the archives on this slow rollout, I got plenty of stuff that you can cut out of the WWE archives, the ECW archives, the WCW archives. I can go into this whenever, Kevin.
There's a lot of ECW stuff that you could put on that list.
Yeah, no, like, look, here we go. I'm just going to go through it. I hope that the Peacock and WWE Network interns are listening right now, or maybe they're listening on the podcast later. But things to cut from the WWE library. They've already taken care of Vince McMahon saying the N-word. They've already taken care of Roddy Piper in blackface. But here's some other stuff. DX doing blackface on Raw when they're impersonating the Nation of Domination. We've got Muhammad Hassan, just write out all of it. Gene Snitsky, Heidenreich, Triple H and Booker T, Triple H and Katie Vick, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon Vegas wedding, Triple H and Eugene, just actually all of Eugene. In fact, Triple H, he goes from aristocrat to executive. That whole middle period just didn't happen. Commentary from every Billy and Chuck match, Kerwin White, the Bashams and Shaniqua, but not for the reasons people think. WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff assaulting Linda McMahon, Trish Stratus barking like a dog, Kamala, the Ugandan giant, Kim Chi, the Japanese photographers from WrestleMania 9, La Resistance, Santina Marella, WLC, Ludwig Borga, Ultimate Warrior, Dana Warrior, Vince McMahon blowing up in a limo, Vince McMahon beating up every member of his immediate family, just Vince McMahon in general, just to be safe. The Good Father is out, but the Godfather stays. Horny Viscera, out. Jimmy Wang Yang, out. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, out. Hot Lesbian Action is now Hot Libertad Action. It raises awareness for the former Peruvian political party. All of ECW, just all of it. The original,
all of ECW,
the original, the reboot, One Night Stand. It never existed. Smoky Mountain 2. WCW. WCW, you got the Southern Boys, the West Texas Rednecks, the Young Dragons, the West Hollywood Blondes, every single member of the Sturgis crowd. Ditto for the Spring Break crowds. You got, let's see, what else do we have? It can keep going. I can keep going like this, but eventually, like Peacock will have to start paying me. My point is, that's the tip of the iceberg, man.
That's the tip. If you liked Ross's list that he put together there, hit a like. Just give the brother a like. Come on, give some love to WrestleZone. Some deep nerdery there. I think this will be fine. You know, I don't think this will be as bad as it is. I think a lot of the content you like will be on there, and it'll just be like, oh, I remember something on this show that I'm watching from back then. Oh, all right, whatever. I think people will just overreact to some of these things. And treat it like it's a shot at them. You're trying to destroy my childhood. There's plenty of really violent, brutal, edgy things that will be on the network, and maybe they'll bleep the language or something like that, and you just kind of acknowledge it, but you don't have to go full tilt with it. I'm fine with that. You know, like, that doesn't insult my intelligence. I'm old enough to remember these things, and maybe for someone who's younger who doesn't want to see that, they don't mind that it's edited out because they can still enjoy. You know, someone who's 15 who has a different view of the world than you and I, who gets the network and says, oh, wow, I have a nephew, you know, and he knows like classic wrestling exclusively through the WWE Network, exclusively through that. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care. It doesn't matter to him. So it's like, it's people getting very excited. Dan Greathouse saying best list ever. You're the best list ever, you Cheers. Know? And we're getting a couple lulls in there too. Jason Michael Campbell texting in, I have all that footage on my DVDs. So I really don't care if stuff is edited. So I'm not interested. Like I said, I have hundreds of wrestling DVDs. So if you're a purist, you know what I mean? The stuff's out there. I really need to see what Mae Young did at the Royal Rumble in 2000 when she won the beauty competition. You can go into whatever eBay store that you can and pay premium dollars.
Screw eBay. Have you been on the internet, Kevin? Have you
seen? I'm on it right now.
Here's the thing. No matter what they cut out of the WWE Network, you're going to be able to find it. I can watch Song of the South with a simple Google search right now, despite the fact that it's locked in the Disney Vault. The Disney Vault doesn't mean shit to the internet. I can go on the internet right now and watch 3 different wrestlers die in the ring. You can find anything on the internet. If you really want to see Vince McMahon say the N-word so bad, you can find it on the internet.
And we're not
If you want to see Roddy Piper paint himself in blackface to the point that he's even regretted it because he couldn't get it off and he had to go through the airport like that. And he eventually went, you know what? Maybe some things aren't worth the heat. Like really go search Roddy Piper talking about the painting himself half black. He's like, I can't stand by it. And so it's out there. You can find it. You can find anything in the world.
And also, like, WWE to some degree, as they become more of a PG company, has basically said, like, there's some stuff we did that we probably shouldn't have done. And this was the time when we did it, because that was the time we thought we could do it. And people were telling us to do all these extreme, crazy things, and they loved it. The audience said yes, so we said yes with them.
And we keep joking about how it's probably some poor Peacock intern that has to go through all these things, but it's entirely possible. Part of the $1 billion is it's $750 million for the library and $250 million to make sure that each time you deliver that content to us, it will not piss anyone off. You know what I mean? Sure. Like entirely possible that the labor going into editing all of this is why it was $1 billion, why Peacock paid so damn much for this network and for this subscriber base that it has to resubscribe on its own. Like,
and also, like, I think the WWE Network content on Peacock is going to be very fulfilling by the end of the year, and we're not going to care about this in 3 months. Like this, no archives, are they editing things? It doesn't really matter because you look at this rollout for WrestleMania week, which is really Fastlane was the first event. It was more of just like a test thing, I think, and that's fine. I would rather they do that, than do it WrestleMania week. You're going to have so much content on there, in terms of on USA Network, on Fox, on Peacock, the 2-night takeover, 2-night WrestleMania. You're going to have a ton of stuff. All right. Mm-hmm. And the ton of stuff for WrestleMania week, especially if they're not doing an Axis, they're definitely trying to overcompensate in some way with all these other things. So kudos to them for trying to make this work here. I do need to talk about this. New Japan Pro Wrestling. You are a lead guy on this. Yep. New Japan had a big New Japan Cup tournament. They are producing regular shows to some of the largest audiences right now in wrestling in the world right now, since they've had better pandemic regulations in Japan, doing events, everyone masked. But obviously, the Japanese crowds are just a different audience in terms of just respectfully clapping and not really cheering during the normal times. But now it's a very different experience. I love catching some of this. I didn't catch all of it. But Will Ospreay is the winner of the New Japan Cup tournament. Yep. He will now face the world champion of New Japan, Kota Ibushi, at the end of the upcoming Sakura Genesis tour. We have the Road to Tour, a series of events to get there. So tell me about this. Will Ospreay, a little bit of controversy going with him as the foreign adversary here in this scenario. And maybe you can give us a little bit more on that.
Well, I got to give you the context going into the New Japan Cup, because going into the New Japan Cup, we knew that whoever wins the Cup is going to be the first person to challenge Kota Ibushi for the newly christened IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which is controversial. It's divisive as hell. There are people that are truly pissed off about the fact that Kota Ibushi is kind of doing away with the entire lineage of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. And so going into the Cup, Ibushi was a bad guy. I mean, he's running around saying he's going to be God, saying that he's going to kind of start New Japan at year 1 by, having this new title established. And so when Will Ospreay won, he decided that he needed to be as heel as possible, because Kota Ibushi is going to have to be the good guy going into Sakura Genesis. And so he blindsided his girlfriend, Bea Priestley, hit her with an Oz cutter, and then cut a promo backstage about how he did it because he loves her and because he loves the title more. That he will, it's that old Randy Orton, if I'm willing to, and Hulk Hogan, if I'm willing to do this to the people I love, what am I going to be willing to do to you?
What am I willing to do to my opponent who I obviously don't love? Yeah.
ignoring the fact that Will Ospreay has just formed a faction, and so he's got two guys next to him that are going, oh, yeah, no, I totally believe this guy I've known for 6 months trusts me more than his girlfriend of many years. It didn't land, and you're starting to see not only the frustration from the New Japan fan base, but there was also, it's not really being talked about on like the New Japan English Twitter. They bring up that Will Ospreay won and that Will Ospreay will be, facing Kota Ibushi, but the stuff with B. Priestley, no one wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole, and unrightfully so. It left a very gross taste in everyone's mouth. It undid a lot of goodwill that was built up by one of the better tournaments in the past few years. I mean, the New Japan Cup hasn't been as good as it was this year. There are some standout matches, whether it's Hiroki Goto versus Shingo Takagi. And in fact, just all of Shingo Takagi's run was fantastic. Ospreay's run was pretty damn good. And guys like David Finlay were getting upsets left and right. Like, they really established a lot of good momentum for some people, but that's kind of not what anyone wants to talk about now, because it's all about Ospreay and it's all about what he did. And so it's remind you a little bit of the scenario with AEW and the end of their most recent pay-per-view. They built up all this anticipation for this exploding barbed wire death match, and they do this great angle and there's little explosions. And I thought it was a solid match. It had some weird things in it, but then the post-match segment is this dud of an explosion, and it was an explosion, but the ring didn't blow up like people were expecting, and they got mocked online for it. I'm not saying New Japan has found themselves in that scenario at all. No, but it does have a similar letdown vibe. Yes, no, because at the end of the day, it's like Bully Ray said. Most people will mainly remember the end of the match, the end of the whatever happened after. It's like there are a lot of people who remember how good Rock versus Austin is, but there's a lot of people who really just remember Austin shaking McMahon's hand. Mm-hmm. And so it can poison things. The silver lining that I've seen is I think people have gotten over it quicker than they got over the Revolution thing. Like all of a sudden, the talk about Sakura Genesis isn't about Ospreay. It isn't about Priestley. It isn't about Ibushi. Yo is coming back from injury, and so Sho and Yo of Roppongi 3K are going to be able to challenge for the junior heavyweight tag belts. People are excited about that. The United Empire is going to get a fourth member that is a big secret, and so people are excited about that. And so that is Will Ospreay's faction, for those who are just new to New Japan. And I don't mind speaking to it in a language where, because it is one of those promotions where people kind of like hop on for big shows and stuff like that. At least on the state side of things. So no, exactly. And that's why I think, it's entirely possible that by the time North American eyes are truly back on New Japan, because I don't know how many guys they're going to get for Sakura Genesis, but they got Tokyo Dome shows coming up. They got a show at Yokohama Stadium coming up. And so there are big shows in the future, and based on what I've seen, by then a lot of people are going to forget about it. Everyone's just kind of hoping that Kota Ibushi kicks Will Ospreay's ass, that's what wrestling's all about, isn't it? Well, another big match was teased this week in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it involves a name that is very interconnected with one Kota Ibushi. They were once the Golden Lovers. Kenny Omega is a big star now in the United States as the champion of AEW. He is embroiled in a cross-promotional collaboration with Impact Wrestling and will face the Impact Wrestling World Champion, Rich Swann, in a few weeks at the Rebellion pay-per-view. Title for title, the winner leaves with both belts. Company officials promising there will be a winner. This will not be like the dusty finish with the two champions and a schmaz of some kind. There will be someone leaving with both titles. And now in a promo this week on Impact Wrestling Television, Kenny Omega appearing, he said he's better than all these different names, better than Luthez, better than Hulk Hogan, better than Kota Ibushi. So this is another sign of AEW being open, being the door, swinging wide open, the forbidden door. And this would potentially, for hardcore fans of Japanese wrestling, bring back these two mega power level players of the last 10 years, possibly in a big dream match. Here's my problem with that Kenny Omega promo. He said he was the best ever, but it all falls flat because he cut it on the lowest rated Impact of the year. No one cares. No one cares anymore. Like that is one thing. I know people have gotten over the AEW Revolution thing, but I really think that because Kenny Omega is now the doof that wasn't able to build a bomb right, it's made people go, look, I will still watch AEW on Wednesdays because they've got so much stuff going that if I don't like what's going on with Omega, I can still enjoy it.
It's a buffet. It's a buffet.
Exactly.
Or I'll click over to NXT and there'll be something there that I want to check out.
With Impact, the whole thing was, oh, Kenny Omega's on Impact. And if you don't care about Kenny Omega anymore, you're not gonna really, and AEW has spent the past however many months, cutting these promos at the beginning about how Impact ain't shit. It does kind of start to wear on viewers, I think, and I think we're getting to that point where we need to get this Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega match over with and move on, because it's starting to really cool off, and not in a good way.
So you're done with the collaboration between AEW and Impact. Do you think it's already burned itself out? I
think it's already gotten to the point where there's nothing left outside of treating it like a developmental territory where guys like Private Party can work on themselves. It doesn't feel like it did back in January. It also doesn't feel like a fair shake for Impact. No, not at all.
I mean, they get a rub of Kenny Omega being there, doing these angles, doing now pay-per-views with them and stuff like that. But it feels like a really good deal for a handful of people. The brands look nice, but AEW already has two little TV time with too many wrestlers in their own roster.
And they're counter-programmed with Impact too. They've got Dark going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it really, like, I get that Kenny Omega is supposed to be a rub, but if the ratings are saying the rub isn't there anymore, then what? They're not getting anything. They're literally back at square one, where they're the LOL TNA promotion. And I honestly feel bad, because they have been the ones that have, quite frankly, been keeping for at least most of February, they were the ones keeping excitement alive. They have seemed to really understand their role and thrive. And I think a lot of that has to do with Scott D'Amore. It sounds like he has been real willing to, like, make apologies for the history of Impact Wrestling. But now you're starting to see people, I think, take advantage of him. Like, maybe maybe this is building to Scott D'Amore, punching Tony Khan in the face. But right now, it just kind of feels like Impact gets to be the butt of the joke while they get in on the whole, ooh, maybe AEW is working with everyone now, and they're not. I mean, they're not really. Like, they have some guys that they legally can't stop from going to Japan, but Japan has to want them in the first place. And they want Moxley. I think they still want Jericho, but Omega's going. It's a long climb for Omega back to Japan. Like, a lot of this, I get the vibe, is Omega trying to build a feud as opposed to there already being one there. Because I don't know. I don't see it anymore. I don't see, especially now that he's the failed Unabomber. Now that he's Kenny Omega. Now that he's not even a Batman villain. He's one of the guys that a Batman villain would hire to, like, be a red herring. Like, I don't know.
He's a level boss. He's not the game boss.
Yeah, like, I don't
to use a video game term.
Good for Don Callis, because he's the boss now, but, like, it's at the expense of everyone around him.
That is certainly a controversial take. If you're an AEW loyalist, you might not like that. Dominic D'Angelo and two Dynamite dudes with our AEW focus show. They may be opposed to that.
I don't know. Here's my I don't know. It's not hitting for me right now. It's just not. Sometimes, and that's my thing. I'm not a guy who goes by stars. I don't go by degrees. I don't even do the 1 through 10 rating that I used to do. I just say, did it hit or did it not hit? And it ain't hitting for me. If it's hitting for you, great. Hit that shit away, but it ain't hitting for me.
Let's talk about tonight's TV shows. We'll do some quick Q&A before we end the show for the diehard people who are checking out this bonus show. We will have another live podcast stream within 24 hours. We'll be live tonight after AEW and NXT air. Obviously, we're waiting for the news of if NXT moves to a different possible night. Seems like a lot of things are leaning that direction, but they are still on Wednesday night, and they have plenty to offer. We'll talk about AEW in a minute, but multiple matches set for tonight's NXT. On paper, this looks like a very, very strong show. The European champion of WWE, the UK champion, Walter, a punishing monster, all right? A man who has that mythical Brock Lesnar larger-than-life quality about him, will be in ring tonight on TV taking on Poor little Drake Maverick. This is going to be a colossal squash where you know what you're getting. You know you're getting a car crash, and you don't want to see someone in the car crash, right?
It's. I hope so. From your lips to Triple H's ears, because there is that sick part of me that's like, I don't know. They got a takeover coming up. What's Walter doing for that takeover? Is it possible that the Drake Maverick upsets Walter tonight? Is it possible because is it a title match?
Wild.
Is tonight a title match, or is it just Walter?
It's non-title. This
exactly.
Is non-title.
So it's entirely possible that Walter's not taking Drake Maverick seriously.
Oh, dude, if they went with Drake Maverick versus Walter at Takeover, I would actually be into that.
I'm just saying.
You just booked yourself a hot angle there, Ross.
I'm just saying they're getting their ass kicked in the ratings right now. If I heard that Drake Maverick beat Walter, I would tune in the next week. I would go, you know what? I need to see what they're doing with this. Because at the end of the day, Drake Maverick's the closest thing they have to Marco Stunt. People love Marco Stunt. People love that underdog thing, man. It's almost...
like Drake's comeback in NXT when they re-signed him in the tournament and everything. That was some of the best stuff they've done in the last year and a half. It was really, really good. And it was a fun, emotional angle, and it paid off well.
And here's the thing: Walter can still kill him at the at Takeover, but just give me that, like, give me a little bit of hopium to smoke, and that match, like you got a whole road to Takeover on your hands right there, because you don't want the UK title overshadowing whatever's going on with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. You don't want the UK title overshadowing whatever's going on with Finn Balor and Karrion Kross. But if it's got that little hook of a guy like Drake Maverick, Ooh, buddy. Ooh. Not you, buddy.
Ooh.
My dog thought I was calling him.
The NXT Tag Team Championships have been vacated. Oney Lorcan, unfortunately, is running alone as his former Tag Team Championship partner, Danny Burch, suffered a separated shoulder, possibly at the hands of Karrion Kross. So they will face off in a good match. I'm looking forward to that. Jordan Devlin versus Kishida in a non-title match. The man who says he is the rightful NXT Cruiserweight Champion. He is at the Takeovers in a couple of weeks, set to face on Santos Escobar. This could be a hot match. Jordan Devlin versus Kushida. That was made on social media yesterday.
We'll see. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know. Devlin has some. He's got some stuff to deal with. So I'm gonna just sit that one out.
Also in action, we will see the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. Are there too many titles in WWE? Some people debate that here. Looking ahead at AEW, what pokes your eye for them this week? Is there anything that is luring you to TNT tonight?
I mean, the return of Laredo Kid to Wednesday night is big. I'm a big Laredo Kid fan, especially in a 6-man in a trio situation like they've got him in with Rey Fenix and Penta, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That's gonna be a barn burner.
When was the last time he was on Dynamite? I mean, he's been on in a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean it's been months. I want to say it was right back before the build to Triple Mania when it was going to be Omega versus Laredo Kid for the AAA Mega Championship, and so it's been a while, and just Laredo Kid's one of those guys who's, it's impossible for him to have a bad match, and so the situation they've put him in this tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a blast. That's one thing I will say. After Revolution, it has felt like AEW is just kind of throwing matches at us right now that you can't pass up. I gotta salute them on that front.
If you love fast pace, over the top, call it a spot fest, call it whatever you want. You're going to get that here. Young Bucks, Brandon Cutler versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. That'll be on tonight as well. Kenny Omega will take on Matt Sydal. If Sydal wins, he gets a title shot. That could be something interesting, but I do think Kenny Omega's path, and specifically in Dynamite, is set for Christian Cage. TNT Championship match, Darby Allin versus John Silver. These TNT title matches have been go-to solid stuff for Dynamite when they do it.
It's getting that X Division vibe where like you're absolutely seeing some young talent elevated now that Cody's kind of handed that belt off to Darby Allin. So Allin's been able to really, I think, make some stars young and old, because his stuff with Team Taz is, I think, what's really helping guys like Ricky Starks and guys like Powerhouse Hobbs develop who they are. Then you add the rejuvenation that he's brought to Sting. Like there is something I don't want to say it too bad, but I think the TNT title division is more interesting than the AEW World Title division.
Like that's a fair comparison.
Well, because it feels more like that promise of young stars than the World Title situation. Because like the World Title went Jericho to Moxley to Omega, and all three of those are great guys, but they are also guys who have been world champions elsewhere. They are also established stars, and so when you see the way these TNT title defenses are going, where it's going to be Wednesday night, it's going to be TNT, and the title match is John Silver versus Darby Allin. That's like back in the cruiserweight title days when you would see like, oh, cool, we're just going to randomly get Dean Malenko versus Eddie Guerrero tonight because to keep the wrestling fans really really jazzed. And so it like I said, they're throwing these matches at us that you can't pass up. It's very exciting.
Let's do a couple questions before we sign off here today. Before we do that, do you want to do plugs now? How about that? So
forget
about it.
We just tried.
You've been doing some great music. You've been in your house for a year now. I know you've posted about it. Luckily, you're one shot in with the vaccine, but you did some great music about the experience that we've all been going through.
No, I've got some music that's I'm going crazy. I'm in my Sgt. Pepper phase. So
your Dr. Pepper phase? Are you going to Dr. Pepper phase?
My Sergeant Dr. Pepper phase. It's been fantastic. But I've been releasing some music over at rossberman.bandcamp.com not this Friday, but the Friday after, April 2nd, Bandcamp Friday. I'll be releasing my next full album, Where the Light Don't Reach. And so that'll have all the singles that have been coming out so far. And then I might be dropping an album the Sunday afterwards too. Just
oh my god,
because I can. Why not? I've been recording a lot over the past year. I've been stuck inside.
The traditional music distribution cycle has changed 25 times in the last 3 years.
It's all released. Well, it depends where if you have like an actual team behind you, it hasn't. Like if you have an actual team, you still promote it, you still do all that stuff. But if you're like me and it's just you recording music and dumping it on Bandcamp so that you get as much money for it as possible, it really is. It's all release based. You got to just keep churning it out. You gotta keep going because you're either putting it on Bandcamp or you're putting it on Spotify where you're not even getting a cent for it. So like you gotta do what you can when you're an independent artist.
Expose the beast here. Get your questions going about anything going on in the world of wrestling. We're a couple weeks out from WrestleMania, so people have a lot of them. I do want to tell you, I am active here. Here's the thing I'll plug. I know the diehards watch the show live, but go get the podcast. It is available. If you don't watch the whole show, there's something you missed. I was watching live. I didn't hear the rest. Go get the podcast. All right. We're doing really, really good on it. We're making a really great effort. We put sometimes over 9 to 10 hours of audio out for free. Just as much video is also available on that same feed. And it's a passive way to enjoy the show. Maybe you don't have to be as engaged watching it. Maybe it's not on your Roku, your laptop, whatever. You want to go for a run. I know a lot of people getting into fitness. You want to get that quarantine weight off for what is going to be the most insane summer of our lives, right? Start listening to podcasts. Do that. It's available on Spotify, Apple, all the different apps. And thank you guys so much for your support there. For the people that are listening on podcasts, we love you. Go and help us out with a 5-star review. It really, really helps us out. New people see you when you get a 5-star review. And that is the best thing you can do for us. We are making some great moves in 2021 at WrestleZone. I'm very, very thankful. I know everyone back at the office that is spread out across the country is appreciated. Let's jump into questions here. James Espanto Fernando Taguay. I'm not going to do the whole intro again. He's here with another one. What would you guys think if the bounty that Drew McIntyre has on his head, an old school bounty, has been put on his head by the WWE champion Bobby Lashley? This is an old tried and true gimmick. It was done in the NWA and other wrestling promotions. I'm not against the idea, but he says, what if it was fulfilled by returning Brock Lesnar? Ooh boy, Brock loves that money.
No, you know who should be cashing in this bounty on Drew McIntyre? Mm-hmm. The man who has an entire family to feed, Roman Reigns. The man who is taking care of an entire tribe. Can you imagine that? If this bounty that has been put on Drew McIntyre's head is fulfilled by the Universal Champion because he can't resist another payday? Beautiful. I would love it.
And he has to be on both nights of WrestleMania. Well, how dare you have me not on a night of WrestleMania?
Exactly. Yeah. And it can play into that whole thing of like WWE don't get me wrong. There's 2 champions in WWE, but there can only be 1 champion. There can only be one guy that's like the guy. And like, sure, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre can run around pretending they're the guy, but like Roman Reigns has been the guy.
Nishad's with us all the time. Thank you so much, Nishad. I mailed out a prize to him a few weeks ago. I know he enjoyed it. He goes, any update on New Japan back on American TV? I know you know the situation with this.
Right now they're on Roku. You can find them on the Roku channel every Thursday at 5 p.m. in your time zone. It's kind of run like the old Access TV show where it's highlights from the past year. That's all the plans they have at the moment, but they're, that can change at any point. I'm still working on all the details because I know they're trying to go to North America. They're trying to go to India. They're trying to go. There is a reason the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship is a thing. So there's a reason they're going from IWGP Heavyweight to IWGP World Heavyweight. I would assume, unless this is all really is just a way to make people think Kota Ibushi's insane.
Bob Skelton texting in with a really cute picture of his cat there. He goes, will Paul White wrestle on Dynamite soon? Well, here's what we do know, and here's what was put out in that press release where many people sometimes, you guys drive us crazy on this, and I can say this, streaming to you guys on social media right now on a couple of apps. Please read the articles. Please read the articles. Do you know how many people drive us? And I'm a social media producer, so I have to go through this sometimes, and I have to vet through so many people talking like they know what is going on, when if they clearly just read the article, they would know that half of what they just typed out for 5 minutes and put in some 1,500 word comment on a thread would understand that most of it is wrong. All right. And because it's based on this. And Bob, I get what you're saying here. I've heard this. Is he going to wrestle? Do we know if it's going to happen anytime soon? He will wrestle for AEW. All right. He did do a podcast this week with Chris Jericho, obviously very prominent in AEW. And he went into why he left WWE, why he thinks he was, kind of phased out there to a degree and felt he had more in the tank. And AEW was going to give him that opportunity. But he definitely feels like he's a veteran and it'll be very sparse when you'll see him in the ring. That's what we kind of know. He will wrestle for them. His major role right now is to be a commentator on Elevation, their new TV show they're trying to develop online. I do think he wrestles. I do think there is that possibility of that really cool Shaq match. We saw Shaq in AEW, and they wanted to do Shaq versus Big Show for a long, long time in WWE, and it was the big celebrity conquest that Big Show wanted. He was out there saying it. What do you think of Big Show in AEW? Paul White. I have to say Paul White.
I'm gonna pitch this right now since I've been doing it all show of pitching ideas. I think it should be Paul White and Ricky Starks. I think it should be Ricky Starks talking up way too much trash to Paul White. Paul White tries to put him in his place, and all of a sudden Powerhouse Hobbs comes out and body slams Paul White. I think Paul White versus Team Taz is money.
Okay.
So much money.
They've been a good goon squad.
But especially Starks and Hobbs. I think between the trash that Starks can talk, and then the fact that you can do that pipsqueak heel versus giant baby face in Paul White. Then you can have Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, really showing how strong he is, slamming the big man. And I think there's so much money there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much for your questions. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I appreciate it. Support Ross. Go get that album, especially Bandcamp Fridays. This is when you can support a lot of different independent music, like people putting out their stuff without a major label behind them. It's a great way to support stuff. Hey, get out there, do what you got to do. Get that needle in your arm, baby. All right. Say yes to science. Get out there, do the thing. Because we can all get the wrestling shows sooner than later. All right. We are working our way up the ladder. We're climbing up the ladder real slow. We're going to get up there. We're going to grab that belt and we're going to beat this thing. We're going to have a good time by the end of this year. We will have a whole bunch of content, for you WrestleMania week. So make sure your notifications are on whatever app you get us on. Because that's where we're going to reach you. Now, Ross, this is very important. We've debated. We've been very, very serious and studious about the world of professional wrestling. We take it very, very seriously. But remember, when watching wrestling, you're supposed to do this one important thing, and I believe it involves joy. Now, do you know what that is?
Drugs? No, I'm kidding. Enjoy wrestling.
Enjoy wrestling, everybody. You've been inside a long time.
Yeah,
You've
no,
been
I've been-
inside a long
No,
time.
I'm in no fucks given mode, man.
We'll see you guys later on tonight. We'll be on right after AEW and